Hey, I'm John G.
Hey, I'm Craig B. Let's conversate. All right, so you want to try?
Yeah, let's draw one. Shake this thing up
Yeah,
a little bit.
shake a dick.
All right.
And we'll see what happens. And this,
let's see what we got going on.
Yeah, this is a segment we call Topics from a Hat, and you'll see this is a little magic hat
that your grandson has?
Yep, that my grandson has, and he likes to go around. Sometimes he wears it on his head, and sometimes he doesn't. So
I don't know if you can read this. Probably not. It says gaming. Looks like there's some lighting on there.
Gaming. All right.
So
what?
You game on more platforms than I do.
Yeah, I do. I've gamed. So we'll just start back to the first game I ever really kind of programmed. It was a game called T.I. Man, and it was on an old school TRS-80. I think I was probably 6-7 years old, and it was one of those deals where it had a keyboard and then you had a cassette player, right? And so you're typing in all the things. And I think I mentioned before that's when I learned that I did not want to be a programmer.
Yeah,
because
we talked about that at some point.
Right.
Yep.
You get one little comma, one little semicolon, one little thing out of whack, and the whole thing just kind of goes
like
ahead.
Being a night auditor at a hotel. I think I used to have a friend that did audit, and you get one number out of whack, and boy,
the whole thing just gets shot. So
then you lost your job.
Yeah, right. You're looking for other gainful employment. Then we're back to that. Crap. So I kind of started out with that. Then I believe at some point for Christmas one year, my parents got me and my brother both an Atari 2600. Right, so I started on the Atari.
Which I don't think we ever had. We had most gaming systems, but I think it started at just the standard old NES.
Right, when it came out. I think the NES came out in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I remember having.
Yeah, and for a long time I didn't, I hit the certain magical age where I was more into sports and chasing girls and doing those normal teenager things. And then I think I finally kind of came back around to it right after I got out of the Navy. I did my term in the Navy. I got out, and that's when kind of what led me down that path was, and here's how I got my start in technology was, I got a staph infection in my knee. I was still in the Navy. I was about ready to finish. They were in, the ship was in dry dock. We had what was called a floating barge. They had somehow they had gotten this room full of computers. They're like, hey, why don't you go in there and see what you can do? I'm like, sure. So I
started building a computer.
Yeah. So I had no idea what I was doing. I just kind of opened this thing up. I'm like, what's this do? Oh, it comes out and do this. So I think out of those 45 or 50 computers, I was able to get about 10 or 15 of them to work.
I guess better that than peeling potatoes.
Right, yeah.
That's always the stigma, right?
Well, but then,
a potato peeler?
Right, no. I wasn't a potato peeler. I was what they called the snipe. Basically, I worked on a gas turbine engine, but it was down in the bowels of the ship. But so I kind of got my start there. When I got out of the Navy, I had our father-in-law help me build my first computer, which was in 1995, 1996, something like that. And then I kind of made that jump from the Atari 2600 to PC gaming. And this was kind of the first iteration of online gaming, right? Because I played original Diablo, which was by Blizzard, which used to be, in my opinion, they used to be one of the best kind of small gaming companies, and now there's a whole shift in that whole climate culture. But I'll leave that.
Small company turned big company to
they had tremendous
big problems that we're not going to talk about.
Tremendous growing pains and what they had going on, and so I went from there to, I think, getting an NES. I think when my wife and I were first married, I had a Sega Genesis for a period of time.
Yeah.
Because in the Navy we didn't get paid squat.
Yeah.
But we could go to the Navy Exchange, right? And they had like the Kmart layaway program. Mm-hmm. But instead of there, where you had to wait until you paid for all the stuff, the Navy was like, hey, you can go ahead and take this home and
That's
pay.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know that they do that anymore,
That's crazy.
but back then they did. And
I don't want to dog on any of the militaries.
No.
Right?
No.
Because they give me the freedom that I have.
Right.
But the fact that you have layaway being in the military is kind of crazy to me.
Well, here's another interesting tidbit, too. Is
that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. We were coming across, and again, this is a little kind of diversion away from the gaming piece. We'll come back to it. But my wife and I were looking at our taxes one year. And we looked at some of the taxes that when we were able to actually get income tax money back.
Yeah,
instead of paying out. But we looked at what I earned one year. I earned $17,000 being in the Navy. That was in the early 90s.
Yeah, I don't think that amounts to much more than minimum wage.
No, it didn't. And they had you 24/7, 365, and and it's I wrote out a check payable to the U.S. government that said up to and including my life, right? Realizing that what I was giving away was only $17,000 worth of salary.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah, I
never knew that.
And that's one of the things for a lot of the military members is I don't know what it is now. I haven't really looked, but those guys they make a decision to do that, and we're thankful for that. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have the freedom today because of people that are willing to do it and have the ability to do it. So I am super grateful that was just a mind-blowing deal that you threw it out there.
Well, and the scary thing is back then, because of where we lived, I wouldn't say where we lived, where I was stationed, we actually qualified for food stamps as well. But I'm gonna leave that there, and we'll move on. Anyway, back to gaming. Sega Genesis. Then we had the NES, and then I think at some point, I can't remember when Xbox came out. Then I've had an Xbox, and all its iterations.
It's got to be early 2000s, right?
Yeah, and that was back. I think it was the first one that had the red ring of death, right? Because they had solder points or
second. It was a 360 that had a bunch of points.
Yeah, and again, I don't do near as much as I did anymore, just simply because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I think most of the gaming that I do now is when we're playing D&D, where your wife is the DM by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and she's done, and just a little mad shout out to her. She's done an amazing job because our characters had a serious point of contention.
Yeah, and I never got into the PC side near as much. I played some like Rome Total War. Those Total War games are phenomenal, and you don't have to have an amazing computer to play them. Some things like that on my phone, but I've always been a console guy.
Right.
I've always been a Microsoft guy.
There's always been that great debate, PC or console.
I know, and it's always been Halo, God of War. When you stack, Xbox and PlayStation up, if I had the money, I'd probably own both because I'm a huge God of War fan as well.
Right.
I don't know if you remember when Dante's Inferno
absolutely.
came out.
You're the one that turned me on to that game, by the way.
That game was like $15 or $20 as a new release, and was the closest thing to God of War that you could get.
Oh, I played the crap out of that game. I know you did too.
Yeah,
so.
I played through it like 2 or 3 times, which most of the time I'll finish a game and I don't go back.
Right.
Or if I do, it's like, I haven't played this in a while. I'll go play it. But
right.
I literally played through, missed some stuff, played through again, and like I was like, cool, when's the next one coming out? And then it never happened.
Yeah.
Makers of Dante Inferno. If you're out there.
Part 2?
Yeah,
just
part
saying.
2.
Part 2?
We've only got 9 subscribers at this point.
Yeah.
So somehow if you come across us, please make more games.
Yeah.
And then we got into this, like, I don't have as much time either to console game. I think I mentioned in an earlier video that I have to fight my son for the TV now to try to play games. But yeah, like we started doing D&D 4 or 5 years ago, right? You started a campaign for a few of us.
I think it was just one of those things that it was I'd always played, right?
Yeah, you played with your father-in-law, who's also my father-in-law.
He's your father-in-law too.
Yes,
right?
he is. They used to play.
Love you, James.
Long time ago, when it was more of like a dungeon crawl, like let's kill and loot and.
Right, and the rules were a little more stringent, a little more restrictive, but I kind of, I think. I'm going to go back to the mid '80s, and there was a game on Apple IIe, which I didn't have an Apple.
Wow.
Yeah, a buddy of mine had it. I forget, it was a text-based, like turn-based kind of game,
which they still have.
Yeah, they do have some. Yeah,
my buddy Nick
I think now they call them muds, right?
Yeah, Nick was doing those. Like, it's a full campaign, but it's literally like, hey, this person's doing this and this person's doing this.
Right. Yeah, and you type it in.
Leisurely play throughout the day or the week or however often your group is set aside. So
yeah, I want to say they're muds. Muds or mud, something like that.
Yeah. If you know, correct us.
Yeah. By all means, drop a comment. Let us know. Hey, ding dong.
Yeah,
it's this.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of stuff in my time on Earth. That some of that stuff I just can't.
Yeah.
I have CRS. Can't remember stuff. And they're,
to put it lightly.
Yeah. We generally use another term, but like I said, we're trying to keep it a little clean here.
Clean as we can.
But yeah, it was a text-based, turn-based game that kind of got me started in that whole thing. And then I actually have out in the garage some D&D books from that time, from like first or second edition or whatever. And so it's when we started coming back to us, like you and I talked about, it's like, I remember playing with our father-in-law and sitting down at his, because he had a store where we had an enormous amount of space to go in and do that kind of stuff and play, and we would go down on a Saturday night, start at 6 or 6:30, and we'd go till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, depending upon what the session was like. And then we just didn't play it anymore. And then I think there was a conversation that said, hey, I'm thinking about, what do you know about D&D? But I think it was because we were Game of Thrones fans.
Yeah, we were Game of Thrones fans, and I happened to be watching... because it's one of those guilty pleasures, The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because it comes on late at night after we put the kids to bed. It's either, Big Bang, The Office, or Friends.
Right.
It's one of those three, and you just put it on in the background while you're messing around on your phone or whatever before you pass out for the night. And there was an episode of, like, Joe Manganiello and some other people on there, and I'm like...
What are they doing?
Man, because you hear about D&D and it's just like, these nerdy people are doing this stupid,
we have the
tabletop game.
Yeah, we have the standing joke in our group that your wife's gonna let you play that nerdy game with your dumb friends.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, shoot, man, these are actors, and some of this has to be based off. So I just started like Googling stuff on YouTube, and came across a campaign that Joe was in, and. I can't remember her name, the redheaded gal from True Blood, which Joe was on as well.
Oh yeah,
and then there's a couple other actors on there with Matt Mercer, and if you know anything about D&D, he's been running Critical Role for a long time and is an absolute freaking genius.
But he also does
the tabletop industry.
Yeah, so he also does some voiceovers for World of Warcraft, which the game that I kind of was leading up to, that I had played for not quite since it came out. I think it came out in beta in 2004, and then it released late in 2004, and then I think I started playing it in 2005. I even now, 17 years later, I still dabble in it. I don't have near the time that I can, to play it like I did back then, but he has done voices in that game, and now that watching him on Critical Role, I can hear his voice and in the NPCs that are playing and hear those animations. I'm like, hey, that's that guy.
Laura Bailey also just won some awards for some sort of voice acting on, I think, a video game.
Oh,
her husband Travis, which is part of the Critical Role crew,
nice.
Was Thor in the animated series, I believe.
Oh, right, okay.
And a couple other characters, like. It's basically Critical Role is a group of voice actors at this point who've done multiple things.
I believe one of the players on there is somebody named Taliesin
Jeffy.
Right, but I think he had a World of Warcraft podcast.
He probably did.
With somebody named was Taliesin and Nevatel, I think is the way that they said it. But it's just one of those things. Like I happened to be, it was back, when I was chasing the almighty dollar all the time.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that I was listening to, I was trying to find podcasts to listen to while I was traveling, and I came across their podcast, and that was like right at the height of World of Warcraft. When they were doing all
big,
when they were doing all that stuff. I mean, they had millions of subscribers, and I'm drawing a blank of Oxhorn. He made a lot of YouTube shorts, but his famous one was, everybody remembers the Muppet song Phenomena.
Yeah.
Well, what he did was he turned it to Rafflemau, and it was YouTube characters that have Rafflemau in it, but
that's cool.
But he also had a podcast and kind of watched him. So it's that whole fantasy game genre just kind of comes together in different people's kind of spin and takes on it. And a lot of it comes back to the original D&D, and a lot of it comes back to the original Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
And
because a lot of it's based.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's different, but
it's
the
broad,
way it
right?
works and everything is very, very, it intertwines.
Yes, and so it was just one of those things. Like I think you had watched all those people, like, hey, that might be something that I might want to try. And it was one of those things. Like I never broached it with you because I didn't think anybody was interested. So I just kind of let it go.
Well, then I think we were having a couple drinks with the group of friends that we had, and
right.
I was just like, hey guys, this is gonna sound real stupid, but do y'all want to do this?
And everybody was like, hey, yeah.
And everybody jumped on board. I was like,
it was not the reaction you were expecting.
I was like, crap, what did I get us into? Like, maybe so. Of course, we're all starting to watch more YouTube videos of people putting together characters because, you can buy this player's handbook that tells you all the characters, but to know how to do it. And I politely asked you if you would DM the first game because you knew more about it than any of us.
Which I still don't know all the things because I mean that game has evolved tremendously, and I don't have the time like some of these guys do they'll buy a book.
Make it a career.
Yeah, they'll buy a book and they'll read it cover to cover, backwards and forwards, and to be honest, I don't have that kind of time. I wish I did. Maybe someday I will. Yeah. And when we get to that point, we'll kind of discuss it then. But it was just kind of cool the way that it came together. Yeah. Much like this idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Came together and we play pretty religiously at least once a week.
Once a week for what, 6 months? 4 months? And then everybody's schedules got wonky.
Right.
And it kind of broke down. And then,
and we were really active in soccer at that time too, and it was tough.
We'd be out the soccer field all day.
Yeah,
you would
just getting beat down.
You would go get ready. We would all show up. We would play till midnight.
Right.
There was a lot going on, and it just people's schedules didn't work out, and we kind of just folded.
Right. Well, we kind of pressed pause.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as we know, the world kind of went the way that it went, and things got put on lockdown, and they were keeping people from congregating together, and I understood that, and then we thought about, okay, well, can we do this online? Yeah. Right. Like, is there a way? And I think you guys tried it out first at home with.
I started a campaign. Well, we started a local campaign with our father-in-law. Mm-hmm. Just a short thing because we only got a small taste through your campaign,
right? Which I think we only got to like level 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, and he wrote out a small homebrew, which is your own campaign. You're not looking at books or anything like that. You can use most people use pre-made maps that you can find online and stuff like that. So he did a great job of kind of coming up with this homebrew for us. Then I was like, okay, well, I want to run things now.
Right.
So I got into the Tomb of Annihilation. We played it for a while. Asked you to join once we kind of figured out, like, okay, we can make this work if we need to remote people in. Like,
right,
we're all
and that
comfortable enough now.
And that was kind of right after I moved here, right? Like, I was there, had the opportunity to come work where I'm at now. I came down here, and then I think on one of the trips home, we were kind of in that in between phase between selling our place there and then buying the place here.
Yep.
And that's kind of when you said, yeah, we're playing, and we're doing this. I was like, hey, if you can do some remote stuff, I'd like to join.
Yeah, so we started zooming you in.
Yep.
I got to a point to where I got burnt out. Just needed a break because it's a lot of prep. I've got a notebook full of extra notes, writing down things throughout the campaign and trying to keep track, and they're all very close to the end. So my wife was like, hey, I'll do one.
Right.
So she took the reins, and she's done, like you said, fantastic job, better than what we could have ever done.
Especially being a first-time DM.
Yeah.
Right? And I think she's come by it pretty honestly, right? Between her father and his background and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But she's, she does the little voices for the characters.
Yeah.
She's able to kind of spin and think quickly on her feet to resolve certain situations. Which is not easy
because, like he said, the entire campaign almost came crashing down in the second.
Yeah, like the second session.
Like the second session, the entire campaign almost.
But it wasn't
to a close.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It's one of the best sessions that we've ever had.
Right.
Still to this day.
Still to this day, and even in all my previous years of gaming, it's been one of the best sessions because it was just playing our characters true to form, understanding the background of those characters. And you and I didn't have any issues personally. It was all within the confines of the game.
Yeah, no, and everybody got up like that was awesome.
Yeah, because and again, it was the ability for us to play our characters based on the alignment that was rolled and why certain interactions happened the way they did. And it was, I could see your wife's reaction to a certain extent. Like I could see her eyes opening and she's like, what in the world is going on? But she handled it like a champ, and it was amazing. I mean, and we still allude to it even now in the current situation with the goings on of our characters, right?
Yeah, we're still just a bunch of young idiots that are trying to find a way to get along and move to this greater good. And
and the thing is we're almost done with the campaign. We're all level 10 now.
Yep.
And we're probably 2, maybe 3 sessions away from the end, but we have to kind of.
I have a feeling we're a lot farther than that, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I just have a feeling we have a way of prolonging things, causing ourselves more pain than what we need to. So I have a feeling that it's going to be longer than that, but
it very well could be.
We'll pick up mine again when we end hers. That's my plan, anyways. We'll finish it out.
Right, and I do think Nick is going to try and do something as well.
Yeah, Nick's got
with
one
his
Strixhaven.
Right, which is kind of a magic school based, like
magic, kind of Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter-ish. So.
Yeah, and then I do have. We could probably come back to my campaign, and I could pull whoever else wants to join in. Probably relatively smooth, but I did have an idea that may still.
Well, like out. me and the wife have still also tossed around the idea. Like I would like to go down, like, as impossible as it seems, like the Matt Mercer route, where he's got this like just open world, and depending on which direction you take or whatever, like and just kind of write the story as it goes.
Like those
choices.
You remember those? What was it? Read your own adventure or choose your own adventure kind of books, where you had those. That's kind of the scenario.
Well, see, and they have some of those like adventure books now for kids, like that give them little mini campaigns and stuff.
Oh.
But it's like a subscription base, so it's so many dollars. I don't know. I didn't look that far into it, but it's so many dollars per month, and they'll send them a new like adventure each month.
Oh, so it's like an adventure module.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to let you guys know, like, I've got a 6-year-old son, a 7-year-old daughter that's about to be 8, and they run little mini campaigns for us.
Oh, nice.
Like Blake, Blake is fantastic. Like Lily does really good too, but Blake, straight up, like we mowed through a bunch of his characters a couple months ago, and he put this dragon out there that I fought till the end. But but just had a couple bad dice rolls.
Oh, that's the way it always goes, right?
And I was the last one standing out of my wife and daughter, and of course I died. This giant white or silver dragon that he had out there. He's like, I finally got y'all. Like, he was so pumped because we just kind of mowed through his little enemies, and he was like, I finally killed you guys.
Yeah.
And was like pumped, and to hear them come up with these stories on just the little bit that they would hear us
that's
play.
That's that creative imagination, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
it's amazing.
I think that could be one of the best ways to get kids down that path of imagination, because I feel like a lot of things that we do is just sitting in front of a computer now.
Oh, right. Oh,
and the imagination is
basically 90% of my life.
Yeah, the imagination's just like washed out.
Click here, do this, yada yada. Rinse ad nauseum, rinse and repeat.
Exactly.
Right?
So, it's been a fun ride with the different characters and the different choices.
I would love to be able to sit and watch them, even just be a fly on the wall and listen and see that kind of interaction to see what these kids come up with. Because I watch them, when we visit, right? I listen to the conversations that they have, and just the stuff. They're so creative, and I don't remember being a kid at that age having that kind of creative juices, right?
No, not at all. Like, unfortunately, like, I played outside all the time, unless I was on a video game system.
Right.
I was always. My parents were like, "Go play outside."
Yeah. When the street light comes on, your butt's inside. Yeah.
And whenever you started fighting or arguing, go play in the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they didn't really want us to, but
you
enough,
can't be inside. Just go outside.
I've heard enough of your crap.
Yeah.
Kick rocks, get outside. But we played outside all the time, and a lot of that, with the change of pace and stuff, I guess, I don't know, the world's less safe, I guess.
Yeah, and I kind of, you may or may not remember this, but as a kid growing up, I kind of remembered when the big bad world kind of came up and made us aware of what was going on, and that was when a girl was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Just literally maybe 4 or 5 blocks away from where I grew up, and I just remember at that point, like, we could still go out and do things, but it was more like, don't go by yourself. That was, man, I'm trying to remember when that happened. I think that was early 80s, to be honest, when I saw that kind of that shift and that. So,
I don't know. That's one of the trips that we need to plan as the world opens back up, right? Like, I want to go to Comic-Con or whatever and like meet some of these people that I watch on YouTube. Like,
sure. Yeah.
And Critical Role is just one aspect, and Matt does a stupid amazing job, as well as the rest of those people. Like, they're what pulled me into D&D.
Right.
Watching them. Yeah. Because it's not just hack slash. There's like these just crazy stories built around their characters, but there's tons and tons of these people out there.
Right, and that's the one cool thing about it, is like it kind of opens up the doors. Whereas, and again, I grew up in a time where, much like probably now, right, most people thought the Harry Potter books were evil. Yeah. Right, because
you grow up in
it's evil, and religion plays a big part of it.
Yeah. You grew up when D&D was satanic.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a history on it. I've got a book on the history of like the beginnings of it and stuff like that, and that's all it talks about, is like how is this huge taboo thing, like you went down into the cellar with your friends so that you could play it behind everybody's back, because if people found out,
right,
it was like, oh well,
you play D&D, don't play with him, that kid's the devil, right?
It's time to go to talk to the pastor again. Like, you're straying away.
You need to come back to the flock. You're straying a little,
which is
you need to,
so absurd.
Oh, I know, it's crazy, and
so absurd.
I think a lot of it is that people look at gaming, and it's just another excuse to not take accountability, right?
Well, yeah.
do what is right, not what is easy. So
well, yeah, and it goes back to our last episodes too, like mental health and stuff. Like, a a lot of these tabletop games like that give you that ability to escape the world that you're
right.
in, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you're in this completely fantasy area, as crazy and nerdy and whatever that sounds.
Sure.
Like it does. It gives you that escape for 4 hours. Probably more than that, because like the group that we play with, I talk to throughout the week. I work with one of the members.
Oh, right. So you guys have all these...
And we talk about it throughout the week, like, oh man, I wish we wouldn't have done this, or whatever, you know. All
right, you can kind of have the post-session breakdown, right?
Yeah, all those flashbacks.
Right.
So, but if you've never looked into it, look into it. It sounds crazy, but...
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it's not just D&D. I mean, there are other things out there.
Yeah.
There's BattleTech, and there's...
There's Pathfinder, which is a lot like D&D.
I don't know that I've seen Pathfinder.
Some of the actually Will Wheaton was he guest starred on one of the first campaigns of Critical Role.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, y'all are gonna have to forgive me. Like, I don't know a lot of these rules, because he was like a huge Pathfinder guy.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, but
I mean, all those systems, they all have.
Yeah.
There is some interchangeability, but a lot of them, it's a lot of the mechanics and the combat.
I'm trying to think of that other big one that you build your armies and stuff up.
I don't guess I'm.
Dang.
I don't know which one you're.
They've got a huge section about it at that store that you guys have here that we went to.
Oh, okay.
But it's another big tabletop game.
Yeah.
Golly, it's
you're not talking about Magic the Gathering, but that's a card based kind of thing.
No, because you've got like armies of soldiers, and you can build like mechs, and like you move these giant armies.
Is that BattleTech?
I don't think it's called BattleTech though.
Well, maybe we'll just have to.
We'll have to dive into
note to self
to check it out.
Yeah, do some research and see if we can figure that one out.
Yeah, but it's across the same lines. But yeah, like, what's the name that played Scooby or Shaggy? Is that Matthew Lillard?
Yeah.
Matt Lillard owns Beetle and Grimm, which does like all these crazy special editions of all these D&D books and stuff that cost good chunks of money. I'll stick to the standard editions myself, but
right. Well, just speaking of Matthew Lillard, I just happened to be watching just an old, I was scrolling through YouTube the other night. Sometimes you can get lost down a rabbit holes, but he had. I remembered that he was in the original Hackers movie. You remember that movie? Came out in the 80s. Maybe it was the 90s. It came out in the 80s or 90s, something like that.
The name doesn't sound familiar,
but it had Angelina Jolie in it. It had Matthew Lillard. It had I can't remember his name now, but he was on the series Sherlock Holmes. He played the main character in Sherlock Holmes on the. I think it was ABC or CBS had that series where he did that, and Lucy Liu played Watson, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
really interesting.
Just kind of a unique spin on who it was, but it was kind of interesting to Matthew Lillard just kind of gave me a throwback.
Yeah.
I just happened to see that the other night.
That's funny.
I did not remember that he was in that.
Yeah, well, I think...
Because he always plays like this really weird, kind of kooky, goofy characters, right?
Yeah, because he was weird in, I think, Without a Paddle, right? Wasn't he was one of the guys in that movie? Like, just kind of, I don't know.
Just kind of strange.
Shaggy's the first one that always hits me now.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Scoob?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't even know who else would have ever played that character.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that anybody could have done it justice other than him.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think we've given enough on that topic, right? Like.
Yeah. I think we're good there.
Hey, so thanks for watching. Make sure that you go hit the like and subscribe. Make sure notifications are turned on so you get the latest videos. And remember, never stop conversating. If you want to send us topics, send those to topics@ConBroSationalists.com.